Hello and welcome to the channel. My name's Michael and today I thought we'd do something a little bit differently. So I read 20 books last year, 20 new fantasy books, and I thought it would be a fun idea to just go through them today and rank them from the book I like the least to the one I like the most. Now, I know what you're thinking. The last time on the video I said that the next video I put out would be working with an editor, working through the edits, and I had fully intended to make that my next video, but when I released that video, I mentioned that it was in real time. I'd literally just sent off my manuscript to the editor, and of course it's going to be with her for a couple of weeks at least. So I thought instead of going weeks and weeks without touching base, I'd do something a little bit differently. It'll give me the opportunity to get better at making YouTube videos and improve my content for you guys. And yeah, I just thought it'd be a fun exercise. I just want to drop a little caveat here is that I'm not a booktuber. I don't normally do reviews, and I won't be using this channel to do reviews all the time, but yeah, just thought as we're kicking off, it might be a good thing, and I don't get the chance to read 20 books very often, so in a year, so yeah, it'll just give me a good opportunity to quickly go through them and yeah, just see my year in review really. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so these were the bottom couple of books. I'm just going to quickly run through. I won't spend a ton of time on them. I'm not going to come on here and kind of slate books. As I say, I'm not a YouTuber, and I'm a booktuber, I should say. And yeah, I'm just not interested in kind of, if I had read a bad book, I just wouldn't talk about it on the channel. But most of the books I read, in fact, nearly all of them I liked in some way. So yeah, we'll just run through the bottom ones really quickly, spend a little bit more time on the top ones. So right down at the bottom was Porn of Prophecy by David Eddings. It just felt a little bit YA to me, and yeah, I'm just kind of moved past that, a bit more mature in my reading now. I wish I'd have read it when I was younger, before I read like the likes of Wheel of Time and stuff, but it was good, but it just felt a little bit too young for me. The next on my list is Moon by James Herbert. I'm a big fan of James Herbert. Rats is like easy in my top 10 books I've ever read. I absolutely loved it. But yeah, this just wasn't one of his best books. But if you like that kind of story, if you're into James Herbert, Dean Coote, Stephen King, you'll enjoy this book. It's really well written. It's just not as good as the other books I've read this year. Next on my list is Republic of Thieves by Scott Lynch. Yeah, Gentleman Bastard series. It's an amazing series, but I just think they're getting not as good with each one. I still love the characters, but I just felt like it was missing like those kind of ingenious moments that they come up with in like the earlier ones, where you kind of see them working through the heist. They're not really in this book. It's more focused on the romance element of it. It just didn't work for me. I still enjoyed reading it, but it just wasn't the best book I'd read. Next on the list is Wind in the Willows by Kenneth Grahame. Yeah, I went through a phase in 2023 of only reading classics. I read about 10-15 classics, and then this one I just picked up in a charity shop and was like, I can't not read it. At first I was just like, oh okay, it's just like a silly children's book, but by the end I could see why it was a classic. It was fun, it was brilliant, and it stuck with me. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, I've just read a lot of good books this year. Next on the list is Book of the New Sun by Gene Wolfe. People will probably jump on me for it being so low down on the list, but I just need to flag, I only read the first 2 volumes. It's like kind of split into 2 books across 4 volumes, so I've read volume 1 and 2, and the reason it's kind of so low down is I just don't have a clue where it's going, what's going on, what's the plot. I don't know. People who love this book really love it and like rave about it, and I know there's like Facebook groups about it and stuff like that, but I'm halfway through, so just bear with me. It's low down on my list now. I'm sure when I kind of finish the whole thing, it'll be higher up. But yeah, I'm just really confused. There was like a part with a play in there, and that went on for ages. Just really threw me out of the story. But I love the main character, Severian, and just how kind of naive he is and falls in love with every woman he meets. It's brilliant, really well written. But yeah, I'm halfway through, so we'll see how we go. Yeah, okay, so these next 5 you could probably just shuffle up, and they could go in any order, because I like them all probably about equally, but this is the order I've kind of tried to put them in. So Mort by Terry Pratchett. It's my first Terry Pratchett book, and yeah, it was kind of everything I was expecting. I don't really kind of get comedy, or I don't find a lot of books funny, but I'd heard Terry Pratchett was really funny, so I picked this book up, and yeah, there was moments in it that did make me laugh out loud, but not as much as I was expecting, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. This is the book that everyone said to me online like I should start with, but then when I kind of said I'd started on that one, there were other people who jumped up and went, no, you should start on this one. So I'm a Pratchett fan now. I'm in the club, but yeah, I just read better books this year, but it was fun read. Next on the list is Echo of Things to Come by James Islington. That's the second book in the Ancestor Trilogy. Yeah, I had the same experience as I did with the first one, in that I was like reading it and started thinking maybe it wasn't for me. I wasn't really vibing with the characters and stuff. That was my experience in the first one, and then it ended really strongly, and it got me interested in the second one. And the second one's just done the same thing. I was kind of going, okay, yeah, I remember why I wasn't really vibing with the first book, and then it ended really strongly, and it kind of brought everything together, and it made me excited for the third one. So, and I've heard James Islington's new series is absolutely fantastic, so it's obvious that he keeps improving as an author. But yeah, so it ended really well, and I'm looking forward to the next one. The next book on the list is Blackstone Heart by Michael Fletcher. Yeah, this was the first indie published book that I'd read. I've read quite a few indie published books, and I'm trying to read more of them. But yeah, this one was a very grimdark book. I don't read a lot of grimdark either, so this was quite like a learning curve, trying to get on board with the protagonist, who's actually an antagonist, who's like quite an evil guy, and you kind of yeah, it's a bit of a strange experience, but it's written so well by Fletcher that you kind of you still find yourself strangely cheering for the guy, even though some of the things he's doing is absolutely terrible. But yeah, it was a really interesting concept, cool world, good characters. So yeah, I enjoyed it. And then the next on my list was another indie published book. One of the indie publishing stars, I would say, Ryan Cahill, of Blood and Fire. It was kind of the first in that series of the books, and I'd heard a lot about them. I heard they keep getting better and better. Yeah, this book probably lower down on the list than most people would have it. I just found it was just too similar for me for Wheel of Time. It was like really jarring. The setting, the characters, the magic system, all those things were yeah, just like, oh, okay, this is like I'm reading Eye of the World again. But I still really liked it. And I remember when I first read The Wheel of Time, I read Eye of the World, and I was like, oh, okay, so he's just literally ripping off the Lord of the Rings. Like, I know that what this guy's doing, it's almost like a homage to the books that inspired him, and then he's going to go off on his own and it's going to grow. That's what happened with Wheel of Time. It's one of my favourite series, and I'm sure Ryan's going to do the exact same thing. So yeah, good start. I'm invested. I'm a fan. But yeah, just at the minute, I'm like the similarities are just really kind of in my face at the moment. So yeah, we'll see. I'm looking forward to seeing where the series goes and how he takes it on his own. And then the last of this next five one is Holy Sister by Mark Lawrence. This finished the Ancestor Trilogy. I'm a big fan of Mark Lawrence. He's a really good character author. Like, he just makes these really cool characters. You know, some of them can be like these anti-heroes, like Jug in the Broken Empire, and then there are others where you kind of cheer for them, and the more relatable, like in this series with Nona Grey. Yeah, really cool, like nuns who are trained as like assassins and warriors and stuff. Like, yeah, there's cool magic in it, big battles, what's not to like. Yeah, it's a great series. I mean, I can't fault it in any way. I just read better books this year, but it just shy of the top 10 for me. So the next three, again, you could probably shuffle around in any order. I enjoyed them all probably about the same, and then the top two out of the top five are definitely above these next three. But so the next one on the list is Iron Hand's Daughter. That's by David Gemmell. David Gemmell's my all-time favourite author, but this is just not one of his better books. I can see how he's kind of written this book, because I know it come before like the likes of Morningstar and Regante and stuff like that, and I can see where he's kind of got these ideas here and then used them again later on, but to better effect. But yeah, it still had all the things I love. David Gemmell has this just talent that no one else has, where he can just make you either hate or love a character in the space of like a couple of words. Like he's a master of it. Like his character writing, that's why he was, you know, a heroic fantasy writer. It was all character driven. It didn't matter what was going on in the plot. It was like just these characters that you'd live and die for. And it's all still there, but it just wasn't one of his better books, but still makes my top 10. The next is Malice by John Gwynne. Yeah, this guy's a superstar in the genre at the moment. This is the first book of his I've read in this series, The Faithful and the Fallen, I could be getting mixed up. I know that I always get mixed up between that and Ryan Cahill, Bound and Broken. So really sorry if I've mixed them up. But yeah, really good story. Kind of giving me Game of Thrones vibes early on with like the direwolf and the just the way like the chapters are like got the character in, and you kind of focus on them and then you swap, and yeah, the politics involved. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I heard the series just gets better and better, and I'm looking forward to the next one. But yeah, I enjoyed the characters and enjoyed the story, where it was going. Cool giants in it, like you don't see a lot of that in writing in fantasy. Like it's almost kind of a bit uncool, but he's made it cool again. There's giants and they're kicking people's asses. So yeah, really enjoyed that book and looking forward to the next one. And then we got The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. Big Sanderson fan, love what he done with finishing The Wheel of Time. Big fan of the Stormlight Archive. I haven't read the new one yet, but especially the first two, they were brilliant. But I just hadn't read Mistborn, never got round to it, but I started it this year. And yeah, big fan. All the things that I like about Sanderson, like his characters, the way like the story just builds up to like this point at the end, and it just goes crazy. Just the way he kind of weaves the plot together, and you can just see it's also intricately planned out. Everything there is present in these Mistborn books, but it's probably low down on the list just because all the things I don't like about Sanderson is there as well. Like just the magic systems almost become like sci-fi, like everything needs to be explained intricately. I'm more of a soft magic system myself, and yeah, just like it explains it over and over and over again. Like, okay, once you set the rules, we can kind of work that out, but no, he likes to just kind of keep telling you how everything's happening, how everything's going on. So yeah, those kind of scored some points down for me, but I still really enjoyed the book. It's a great book, and I can see why it's so popular. As I said, these next two stand out from the previous three for the next five. The first one is The Drawing of the Three by Stephen King. Stephen King is just an amazing writer. The Dark Tower series, like he says, that's his magnum opus, his masterpiece. I've read books that I like them from King more than these two, than the two Dark Tower books I've read, but he's just a master writer. Just his characters just leap off the page, the way everything flows, like the different when he's writing from a different character's point of view, and the way the whole writing changes and everything, it's fantastic. He really is just a master craftsman, and the fact that he can kind of sit down and write apparently 15 manuscript pages a day, and then like people like George Martin can only sometimes write a couple of lines or words, but the prose is just still fantastic. It just shows how great a writer he is. And probably explains why some of his plots go a bit crazy, because he doesn't really plan everything out, and he just writes 15 pages a day religiously, whether he loves them or not. So, but yeah, just great book. Continuing the story of Roland on his quest for the Dark Tower, bringing new characters in that are just as kind of intriguing, and yeah, it's just an awesome book, and I really enjoyed it. And then the last of this five was Foundation and Empire. It's the second book in the Foundation series by Isaac Asimov. And yeah, I mean, it just picked up where Foundation left off, like literally, but just in terms of the quality. I think I like Foundation more, but not like the quality in the books doesn't dip at all. It's just that I just preferred that one, the story a little bit. But yeah, it's just intriguing, just this idea that like everything is planned out, mapped out, and like the fact that just, it's so intriguing, the idea of the story that like in the future there's this mathematics that's so far advanced that you can just predict the future. It's crazy, but then when something happens, like an anomaly comes along and messes with that plan, it just makes such an intriguing story. So I loved it. Can't wait to read the others. Yeah, big fan of the series. And now we're into the top 5, and I might spend a little bit more time talking about these just because I've really enjoyed them. There's really not much between the top 2 and these next 3, but yeah, let's get into it. So the first one is Return of the Crimson Guard by Ian C. Esselmont. So this is the co-author of the Malazan world alongside Stephen Erickson. I've read Malazan Book of the Fallen. Huge fan of that series. It's probably in my top 2 fantasy series of all time. But I'd heard that, you know, Esselmont is a bit of a step back from that. I just disagree. Like, this is only Esselmont's 2nd book, I think he wrote in the series, in his series. But it's fantastic. You know, I loved it. It was great seeing more of the Crimson Guard. His action sequences are just as good. His prose writing, brilliant. I maybe didn't laugh as much as I did with Stephen Erickson. Stephen Erickson's books can be really funny at times, but all the action was there, all of the kind of intrigue, the way the plot's twisting around, seeing the characters that Erickson used come into Esselmont, and like thinking, okay, he actually does this better than Erickson, and then maybe, okay, he doesn't do this character as good, but that was just fantastic to see, and I've never really seen that in another series, like 2 authors using the same characters and doing them just as well. So yeah, I'm converted. Like, I just totally disagree with people who say that, you know, Esselmont's not as good. It's different because he's not writing the huge sprawling 10-book series, but he's kind of filling in the gaps between those stories, and he's doing a fantastic job at doing that. So yeah, kudos to him. Can't recommend it enough. If you're a fan of Erickson, you'll almost certainly like Esselmont. The next book is Kings of the Wild by Haynes. I'm sorry, I've completely forgot the author's name. It's gone from me, and I don't have the book here to run and check it. But Kings of the Wild, the name's there of the author of who it is. But oh my god, what a book. So funny, so action-packed, like a proper throwback to heroic fantasy. I said earlier, Gemmell's my favourite author, and I can't really think of anyone who's writing books right now that comes close to like doing heroic fantasy like this, where it's just all about the characters, forget what's happening in the plot, you know, we're going on an adventure and that's that. It's absolutely brilliant. The characters in it are fantastic. The premise, where it's all kind of based on 70s rock band, like, and you know, the mercenaries are like metaphorically kind of rock bands, where it's like we're getting the band back together, we're going on tour again, that kind of thing, and they're just treated as celebrities. It's fantastic. There's a little wink in there to Freddie Mercury, or at least that's what I thought it was. See if you noticed that. But yeah, just such a good book, so fun, and I was just blown away by it, and I can't wait to read the 2nd one, and I'm just so invested in like what else is going to come from this author whose name I can't remember. But yeah, it's just so exciting to have someone within the scene who's not like, oh, you know, we're going to go and do this big overarching story, and it's all gonna, it's just, the characters are there and they're fantastic, and you're just meant to enjoy them, and I love that. Next is Before They Are Hanged by the great Joe Abercrombie. I'm talking about characters and like authors not really focusing on characters. This guy does, but there is a bit more of his plot to it. Like, you know, he's an epic fantasy writer, but he just writes such amazing characters that you almost forget that there's a plot there. And his stories do seem to go a bit like wavy as a result of this, because he's you're just following what these characters are doing. I think Logan Nine Fingers is just one of the best characters ever written in fantasy, but you can say that about Glotka too. Yeah, and you know, these characters have been through some stuff. They're dark, but you almost like forgive them of it, and again you find yourself cheering for them. They are the good guys in the story, or as good as kind of you get in this world. You know, they're the guys trying to do the right thing, but yeah, they're dark, and they go through some terrible means to get to to where they need to get to. But yeah, just a great story. His prose is fantastic. He's funny. The action is just right up there with the very, very best. Joe does not need me to kind of sing his praises, but I'm going to anyway because yeah, I just love his books. I've got the last one behind me on the bookshelf there to finish off the First Law Trilogy, and I'm just sad that it took me so long to get to it. Speaking of taking so long to get to it, number 2 on the list, and it was a toss-up between these top 2, but number 2 on the list is Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. I mean, yeah, so I didn't read this because the title put me off for years. Like, I've been aware of this book for probably 15, 20 years, but the title just always put me off. I just didn't want to read a story about assassins. It's not about assassins. It's sort of got an assassin element to it, but it's all about the main character Fitz and what he goes through, the politics involved, his ability to talk to animals, or like communicate with animals through his bond, and it's just absolutely fantastic. The prose is amazing. The character work is second to none. Literally, there's no one who does it as well. And I was just blown away by it. I see criticisms of it being like a slow burner and the pacing being off, but I just didn't care. It was written so well. This character could have just been going out and doing his weekly shop, and I'd have just been super invested. I think at one point he does go and do a shop, but I was still just like, wow, this is just great. It's so well written. The character is just so easy and lived in and just comes to life. Even the little side characters are just fantastic in it. Interesting magic systems, interesting like kind of plot, like what's going on in the background. Just amazing. It's such a good book, and I'm just kicking myself that it took me so long. And funnily enough, I seen someone on a fantasy forum on Facebook complaining that like they were tricked by the title, and it was like, I thought this was going to be about assassins, and it's not, and I don't like it, and I don't recommend it. But I was the opposite in that it kind of put me off, and then when I actually read it, I was like, I've been an idiot. So yeah, if you haven't read Robin Hobb, why? And then the last one on my list, on number 1, the best book I read last year was Hyperion by Dan Simmons. Yeah, I mean, this is like considered one of the big 3 in like the sci-fi world, alongside Foundation and alongside Dune. And yeah, there's a reason why it's up there. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why these things are happening and all that, but it's just so interesting. The whole thing is like a take on the Canterbury Tales, where these pilgrims are going on this pilgrimage, and they just tell their story as they're on the way there, like why they're going, how they ended up there. But because it's told in this sci-fi setting, you're getting like a kind of from viewpoint to viewpoint, like a view of the whole universe and this empire, and it's just so amazing. The different stories, every single one of them just jumps off the page. Yeah, every short story is as good as the last, but they're just so different. The Shrike and like the where they're going to is just crazy. Like you've no idea what's going on even towards the end. As like each story was getting closer, like we were going through each person, I started to get the feeling that I was going to get an ending that I wouldn't be satisfied with, that I'd be a bit like, oh, I know what you're going to do here, and I don't like it. And it ended how I thought it was going to, but there's a line right at the end, or just coming up to the end, a bit of like a reference, and it rescued it for me. It was like, I don't want to give any spoilers, so read the book. But yeah, this one line just rescued the end for me, and I realised why the author had done it, and I was just blown away by it. I loved the stories, loved the characters. I couldn't tell you which one I thought was my favourite, although I think the one that sticks with me the most is the story of like the priest and the cruciform. But again, I'll just let you read the book yourself. It's unbelievable. I'm definitely more of a fantasy person, but sometimes I dip into sci-fi, and this book just blew me away. Which is why it's my number 1. And as you can see, I've read a lot of good books in 2020. I've read 20 good books in 2024. but this one just stood out as the best, and I say it was close between that and Assassin's Apprentice, but when I just feel about like the impact that a book had on me, I think Hyperion is probably a good distance away from the others. So that's it. That's the 20 books. That's my ranking order. As I say, I didn't read any books I didn't like this year. If I did, I just wouldn't mention them. I'm not going to be slating authors on the channel when I'm trying to be one. That just doesn't give off a good vibe. So yeah, maybe my next video will be on working with an editor, or maybe I'll squeeze another one in. It depends when I get my work back from the editor, but at some point in the near future we'll be talking about working with an editor. Then it'll be on to working with, like, hiring a cover designer, and some other things as well. So there's plenty to look forward to on the channel. Please like, please subscribe, follow me on X. The details will be in the description or popping up on the screen now. But yeah, thanks for tuning into this one, and I'll see you at the next one. Bye.